episode done, all that stuff. You know what happened from there.
Hey guys, I think one of the issues is I usually don't solve any problems, so I don't know how long they're going to keep me around. As Bill said, my name's Clint. Thank you guys for coming out and enjoying lunch and fellowship and time together, and just the opportunity to hang with you guys is a privilege, so I appreciate it. I'm excited about what I'm going to share with you. It's something I've been thinking about for a while. It's connected to kind of who I am, and so I'm super pumped to share with you guys. If we haven't met before, I'm from Atlanta. Moved down about 2 years ago this month, actually, and worked over at Church at Viera on the team over there. So I've got 3 little kids. I've been married 15 years, and I've got 3 little kids. Bentley, my daughter, is 13. Ooh, she's growing up quick. And,
That ain't little, man.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of hits me there when I say it. And then I got 2 boys. My son Silas is turning 11 on Saturday, and so I'm going to take him fishing on Saturday. I'm excited about that. And he's got a little brother, Leighton, who is 9.5. So 3 kids, incredible wife, and that's a little bit about me. I love adventure. I love to hunt. I love to fish, and I love men. I love the opportunity to share God's word with people, and especially a group of men. So it really is a privilege for me to be here. Get us started. I want to take you guys back to August of 2010. Okay, August of 2010, there was a collapse in a Chilean mine. Anybody remember this? You guys remember this? Yeah. 33 men. Okay, this mine zigzagged down about 4,500 feet below the surface of the earth. Right? Zigzagged all the way down. They find out this mine has collapsed, and there's 33 men stuck 2,300 feet below the surface of the earth. Okay? Stuck. Trapped. 2,300 feet. Now, anybody been to the Tower of Terror? You guys know at Disney, the Tower of Terror, you guys ever seen that? I don't like one Tower of Terror, okay? It's a ride at Disney. I don't like one of them. This is 12. 12 Towers of Terror, okay? These guys are stuck. 33 men. They ended up congregating in this little safety area. 33 of them. And this safety area was about 500 square feet, okay? So, think about this. I don't know how many guys. 4, 8, 12. Okay, we got maybe 25 guys here, maybe 30 guys here. Imagine an area, let's just say, from about here to the door. Okay? Something like that. Maybe all the way there. All of us, we've been mining all day, okay? And now all of a sudden, we're stuck in this area that's about 500 square feet. 500 square feet, 2,300 feet below the surface of the earth. Trapped. No way out. No communication, no food, no nothing, okay? They had this little safety area set up for these guys, and like I said, it was a tiny area. You can imagine. These guys have been working all day, grown men, sweaty, stinky, and they're living together in this area. You guys want to know what they had in that safety area for them? I'm going to tell you. Here's what they had. This is what they had to eat, okay? This is fascinating to me. These guys had 1 can of salmon. Anybody eaten canned salmon before? Sure. They had 1 can of salmon. They had 18 cans of tuna, 24 liters of condensed milk, some of which had already expired. They had 10 bottles of water, and these guys are stuck 2,300 feet down. Here's what they would do. They would line up these plastic cups, okay? So picture the bottom of your cup there, right? Cut it off right there where it starts to get a little wider. Cut it off right there. They would line up 33 of these cups, right? 33 men. There was a man there that kind of declared himself the leader. He was now in charge. And so he would line up 33 cups, and they would take 1 spoonful of tuna and put it in the cup. And then they would take a little bit of water, just a little bit of water, and they'd take a spoon and they'd mix it up. Or maybe they didn't have spoons. They'd probably use their finger. And they'd mix it up and they'd turn it into a broth. Okay? And that's all they had to eat. And they were thinking that with the supplies that they had and with what was going on, they were thinking that these guys might live for a week, 1 week. They were hoping this food would keep them alive for a week, okay? The world's watching this. You guys can remember, so many of you raise your hands. Yeah, I remember that. The world's watching. All these experts are flying into town. How are we going to get these guys out, right? Everybody's on alert. The whole world is on the edge of their seat. What are we going to do? We can't just let these guys, eventually they're going to suffocate, something's going to happen. We can't just let them die. 33 men are stuck 2,300 feet below the surface of the earth. Is this crazy to you? It's crazy to me to think about, right? And to imagine. I can't imagine. You got specialists coming in from all over the world, okay? 17 days later, 17 days, they finally figure out a way to drill a hole the size of a grapefruit, okay? So maybe imagine the top of your cup. They figured out a way to drill a hole 2,300 feet down, the size of a grapefruit, to connect with these guys. And they begin to send food, and they begin to send water, and they begin to communicate with these guys. You want to hear what the first thing these guys said when they, I don't know, what the pulley system, I don't know how they did it. These guys sent a note up. And here's what they said. They said, we are fine in the shelter, 33 of us. We're fine in the shelter, there's 33 of us. 69 days later. Okay? 69 days later. From today to the middle of August. Okay? What are you doing tomorrow? What are you doing for Father's Day? What are you doing for July 4th? Right? School's going to kick back up at the beginning of August. What are you going to be doing? Think about all the days that are going to pass by between now and the middle of August. These guys are stuck 2,300 feet below the surface of the earth for 69 days. And after a 22-hour rescue mission, they finally began to pull these guys up one at a time. They had drilled a hole, and it looked like a little rocket. It was literally the size of my body, but maybe 2 times my height. These guys would get in one at a time, and they pulled them up. It was a 15-minute ride from their shelter to the surface. There's some pictures if you're interested to see it. It's an incredible, absolutely incredible story. 22-hour rescue mission, and these guys come up one at a time. Can you imagine the joy they were feeling and sensing and experiencing? You know what's interesting to me, when the miners were stuck, okay? When they're stuck down below the surface of the earth, you know what they didn't ask for? They didn't send back up, hey, send us another pick, right? We need a bigger axe. Maybe they could say, hey, send us some of those fancy climbing shoes that you guys have heard of. We want to see if we can get out of here. They didn't send a message back up. Hey, leave us down here. Leave us down here. We want to see if we can figure out a way to get out of here. What's interesting to me is those guys didn't send that message, right? They didn't say, we need a sharper pick. We need a bigger axe. We need some more tools. We need some... No. These guys realized, they came to the conclusion, after being down there, they quickly came to the conclusion, all 33 of them, here's what they said. We need help. Right? We need help. We need somebody from up there to get down here that's going to help us get up there. Now, these guys were stuck for 69 days below the surface of the earth, half a mile. And they all came to the same conclusion, every one of them. There's nothing we can do, no strategy we can come up with, no tool, no special rope. There's nothing we can do to get ourselves out of this hole. We need help. Let me ask you guys a question. You ever been there? Have you guys ever been there? Have you ever been to a place in your life where you realized I'm not smart enough. I'm not good looking enough. I don't have a good enough strategy. I don't have the tools that I need to get out of this mess that I found myself in. If you guys ever come to a place, I wonder today, if you've ever been to a place in your own life where you said, I need help. I need somebody from up there to come down here that's going to help me get up there. The title of my talk today is simply called Grace. Everybody say grace.
Grace.
I don't know what comes to your mind when you think of the word grace. Maybe you've heard of a grace period. Some of us have heard of a grace period. Maybe it's from our bank, right? Or on our mortgage or on a credit card. Maybe you would describe somebody as gracious. Maybe you go to church and you sing songs about this word grace, but the birthplace of grace in our lives is when we come to a place, and I hope every single one of you men has come to a place where you've realized, I need help. I'm stuck. There's nothing I can do to get myself out of this mess. And when you come to that place, it's an exciting place because that is the birthplace of grace. We're going to look at a story. I want to tell you guys about a story that I'm sure many of you have heard of. This story paints the picture of kind of where we are. Oftentimes when we read stories in the Bible, we may not realize, but I think this story actually paints the picture of our reality, of who we are, and of where we are. It's in John chapter 5, and it gives us an idea of what our reality as human beings actually looks like. Because for grace to be amazing, right? We know the song, Amazing Grace. For grace to be amazing, there has to be a problem, right? But we don't need grace if there's not an issue. We don't need a solution if there's not a problem. And so for grace to be amazing, there has to be some kind of problem that grace is solving. There's no good news without bad news. And so this story is actually called Healing on the Sabbath. That's the title. If you look it up in your Bible, it's called Healing on the Sabbath. It's in John chapter 5. Just before this story, Jesus was traveling. He was north of Jerusalem. Okay? He was about 5 days travel north of Jerusalem. He had just done some really cool miracles. And he and his posse, he and his guys, they're headed to Jerusalem. And it takes them about 5 days. And right before they get to Jerusalem, they pass this area right by the Sheep's Gate. It's called the Pool at Bethesda. I want to read it to you guys. Here's what it says. It's in John chapter 5, verse 1. Sometime later, Jesus went to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish festivals. Now there is in Jerusalem, near the Sheep Gate, a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here, a great number of disabled people used to lie. The blind, the lame, the paralyzed. See, John describes this in detail because he'd actually been there. He was there. He sees this happening, and he gives us specifics about this story. These were the most desperate people, okay? These were the outcasts. These were the sick. These were the lame. These were the paralyzed. And you need to understand, in those times, their doctors were scarce, okay? So if you were sick, if you were paralyzed, if you were blind, if there was something going on in your life that you couldn't heal yourself from, that you couldn't fix yourself, you needed a doctor. Doctors were scarce. So they had 2 things that they could lean on. They could lean on temples. They would hope the priest would somehow help them or show them mercy, and they would lean on superstition. And this story that we're looking at today actually talks about and deals with superstition. See, the legend was that there was this pool, right? And an angel would come and stir up the pool. And when that pool got stirred up, when it bubbled up, these people believed if you were the first one into that pool, then you would be healed. If you could be the first one in the pool, then you would be healed. And this area has actually been excavated recently, not too long ago. And what they found was there was a reservoir that kind of flowed water into this pool. And below the reservoir, there was a natural spring. And so every once in a while, that spring would bubble up and it would flow water into this pool. And these people believed that somehow an angel had appeared, and they believed if they could be the first one in the pool, that they were going to be healed. Now, you got to understand, I kind of want you guys to go there with me. We're talking blind people, okay? Severely handicapped people, sick people, okay? Healthy people avoided this area like the plague because it was like the plague. They didn't want to be around it. But you have this pool in these 5 kind of covered, picture kind of this covered area we're in today. 5 of these areas full of people, full of these people, right? This is the kind of area that I imagine every once in a while a government official would have to walk through and look for dead bodies, pick them up, and cart them off, right? Now that's the area that we're talking about here. I'm going to continue in the story. One who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, here's what Jesus did. Jesus sees this man laying there, right? And it says Jesus learned about this man. Jesus, you can kind of picture him kind of leaning over next to this guy, right? And he asks about him. Hey, how long have you been here? Right? You can picture this moment. Now, we don't know why Jesus chose this guy, but Jesus walks up to this guy, and he learns about him, and he asks about him. And he asks the strangest question. He asks what I think is a silly question, but you can picture this moment. Jesus leans over, and he kneels over to this guy, and I'm going to ask you guys the question. I'm going to tell you what the question is, and then I'm going to ask you the question, okay? Jesus walks up to this area, and he leans up to this man. He's been laying there for 38 years. And he leans up to him, you can kind of picture him whispering, right? Here's what he says. He looks at this man, and he says, do you want to get well? Right? Do you want to get well? Do you want to get well? Let me ask you guys, okay? Do you want to get well?
Yes.
Of course. Do you want to get well? Right? Because sometimes it's easier to stay sick than it is to get well, isn't it? So, sometimes it's actually harder, the things that we are in control of, bad decisions, our physical bodies, those choices and those things that have been nagging at you. You know what they are. Do you want to get well? I think it's an important question. It really isn't the point of my talk today, but I think it's an important question. When you go home tonight, right before you go to bed, I want you to look yourself in the mirror and answer this question. Do you want to get well? You need to know the answer. Sometimes it's easier to stay sick than it is to get well. But as men, we have to be able to answer that question. So tonight, at some point today, look yourself in the eyes and answer that question. Do you want to get well? So back to the story. Jesus leans down to this man and asks him this silly question, right? Hey, do you want to get well? He replies, Sir, the invalid replied, I have no one to help me into the pool. When the water is stirred, while I'm trying to get in, somebody else goes down ahead of me. Again, go back to the story. This man is looking Jesus, the Son of God, right in the eyes. And he has no idea who he's talking to. Is that incredible? Can you imagine that moment? And his response is, Sir, I don't have any help. I want to get well. But I don't have anybody that's going to help me get into this pool. He says, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I'm trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me. And this is terrible, but when I read this, I read what it describes. I picture what it describes. Picture that with me for a minute, right? Blind, lame, paralyzed, sick, everywhere. The water boils up. What are they doing? Right? What are they doing? They're running, right? They're rolling, they're crawling, they're doing everything they can so that they can get into this pool. Jesus kneels down to him. This is incredible. The story continues. It says, Jesus kneels down to him. This is what Jesus says, right? He says, get up. Get up. Get up. Pick up your mat and walk. This is amazing. Sometimes this is translated, wake up. Sometimes it's translated, rise up. Sometimes it's translated, come to life. Jesus looks at this man and he says, wake up, rise up, come to life. At once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and he walked. I want you to imagine this man, okay? This isn't a vacation Bible school story, right? This actually happened. This man had been laying by this pool for 38 years. That's 13,870 days. He laid there, sitting by the pool, hoping that the water would be stirred. You know what that's called? It's desperation. This man was stuck, wasn't he? This man he needed help. 13,870 days. He was desperate, and he laid by that pool for 38 years, and he's surrounded by people that were just like him. Nobody else would dare walk by this pool. Nobody's coming by here. You're trying to convince your family, hey, can you come visit me and hold me over and just drop me and hope while I'm in the air falling, the water's going to bubble up and I'll be the first one in. So it's like hold them over, drop them. Nope, didn't work. You can picture people just rolling in. Nope, didn't work. Nope, roll out. Nope, roll back in, right? You have this moment. 38 years this man had sat by this pool. Out of nowhere, right? Out of nowhere. Jesus shows up. Out of nowhere, absolutely, completely by surprise, Jesus shows up in this man's life. And the first point that I want to make today, I'm going to let these guys head out real quick, and then I'll keep going. Thanks for coming, guys. First point I want you guys to see here. First point I want you guys to understand is this. Grace has a name. Grace has a name. Grace has a name. Verse 15 says, the man went away and told the Jewish leaders that it was Jesus who made him well. Grace has a name. For 38 years, this man thought, if I could just get in the pool, if I could just get in the pool, could this be the day I get in the pool first? In the story, what I love so much, see, the man thought he needed a pool, but really, what he really needed was a person. You guys see this in the text? He thought he needed a pool, but what he really needed was a person. When Jesus heals this man, okay? When Jesus heals this man, he doesn't say, hey, bro, I'm gonna help you out. An angel's coming tomorrow, 9 a.m., okay? He doesn't say, hey, let me have your foot, and I know when the angel's coming, I'm going to dip it in the pool. Jesus doesn't do that. Jesus doesn't say, hey, I've got this insider information. I'm going to help you get ready. Jesus doesn't talk about the water. Jesus doesn't use the water. He doesn't mention the water. Jesus just looks at this man, and he says, hey, get up. Take up your mat and walk. Grace showed up in this man's life, and it came in the form of a person. Grace has a name. His name is Jesus. See, the pool represents a system. You guys see that? The pool represents a system, but the system doesn't work because the reality is, I don't know how long you've been dealing with, men. I don't know how long you've been dealing with whatever it is you're dealing with, but I know some of you have been dealing with it for longer than 13,870 days. And it isn't working, is it? It isn't working. You're not smart enough. You're not strong enough. You don't have the tools. You don't have the skills. you can't come up with a strategy that can get you out of the mess that you're in. You're stuck. You're stuck. You're trapped. And you're not blind. You're not paralyzed. Maybe it's just guilt. Right? Maybe it's shame that has you trapped. Maybe it's regret. You've been carrying it for 13,870 days. And it has you trapped. Here's what I want you guys to know. I don't know what kind of pool you've been trying to jump into. But I know it's not working. See, you don't need a pool. There's only one type of water that's going to heal us, man. It's called living water. Am I right? Yes. One type of water that's going to heal us. We don't need a pool. We need a person. His name is Jesus. Grace has a name. Culture tells us that healing and wholeness is found in a location. It's found in a destination. If I could get there, if I could make that money, if I could get that job, if I could heal that relationship, if I could live in that neighborhood. Culture tells us that it's in striving. It's found in a destination. Healing is found in a destination. Grace is the opposite of that. It tells us it's found in an invitation. Grace is found in an invitation. Culture tells us that freedom and healing for what we've been carrying is found through striving. Grace says it's found through surrendering. Grace has a name. It's a different message altogether. See, this is what separates Christianity from every other religion. Here it is right here. It's not in striving. It's not in trying harder. Grace has a name. You don't need to get in the pool. Men, you don't need to get in the pool. You just need to meet a person. He has the power to heal you. Second thing I want you to remember today is this: is we get what he paid for. We get what he paid for. We get what he paid for. I think one of the main reasons we misunderstand grace is because we have a hard time believing that something this amazing can be this easy, right? Everything in our culture, the way we grew up, the way you guys live, everything says what? You get what you paid for, right? That's what we believe. You get what you paid for. And then all of a sudden, we're told that we get this incredible, amazing gift and we don't have to pay for it. It doesn't compute, right? Everything in our culture tells us you get what you paid for. How many pieces of furniture from IKEA are you going to buy before you realize this, right? You get what you pay for. Anybody been to Five Below before? You taking your kids to Five Below? Junk, right? Junk, right? How long do we realize you get what you paid for? Grace says, no. We get what he paid for. And what I want you guys to see today is I don't want you to discount grace because it's too easy. Don't discount grace because it's too easy. Grace is not easy. This is not a free gift. Grace was not and is not a free gift. This gift was paid for. Grace was blood bought. It costs far more than you could ever imagine. And we sit back and we say, Savior of the world, Jesus came to the earth and died on the cross, excruciating death, so that I can be healed, so that I can be forgiven. Nah, too easy. Too easy. I don't buy it. I think I'll just send me down an axe. Send me down a pick. And I'm going to try to dig my way out of here. There's no way it can be that easy. We don't know any other category as men other than you get what you paid for. I mean, some of you guys still have trophies in your house from 30 years ago, right? We live in a striving culture. We live in a striving culture. That's our category. We don't know any other category. That's what makes Jesus so amazing. That's what makes grace so amazing is that you and I get what He paid for. See, we have this view of God. Here's kind of the way we operate, right? We have this view of God that we say, okay, I have these past regrets. I have these things in my past, in my life that I need to make up for. What does the Bible say I need to do? What do I got to do? Well, I got to read my Bible. Okay, I think I can do that. I can read my Bible. Well, I got to pray, right? I got to pray. Let me see if I can work my way. Okay, I got to pray, right? And the Bible says not to commit adultery, right? Okay, I can do that. I'm gonna be faithful to my wife. And then in the New Testament it says if you look lustfully at a woman, right? Oh, okay, you know, right? I'm gonna go back down here. We had a big game, right? Ohio State playing a big game, playing Penn State, playing Michigan. We stayed up late to watch the game. We didn't go to church, we didn't read our Bible, and we didn't pray. We didn't do any of it. And this is our picture, and here's what we do. We picture God. God's up here. I'm a pretty big boy, so I'm test the limits of this ladder, right? God's up here, and He's looking at us, right? He's looking at us, and this is what we picture. That's cute. That's cute, right? I wonder how far they're going to get this year. What do you give them? Maybe the 4th step? 3rd step? It's better than they got last year. 2nd step. And then we live in this culture where we believe that we have to work our way to God. We have to strive our way to God. We have to work. We got to give me a pick. Send me an axe. Men, this is a system. This is a system. And when we view our relationship with God this way, we are belittling the sacrifice that Jesus made on the cross for our sins. Grace wasn't free. You can't earn it. You can't pay for it. You can't work your way up the ladder. God, in His mercy and in His kindness, sent His Son crawling down to the earth to die an excruciating death. It cost more than any of us can ever imagine, so that we could find healing and forgiveness, so that we could find freedom. And what do? Climb the ladder, right? I'm going to work my way up to God. I'm going to read my Bible more. I'm going to pray more. I'm going to make sure I'm in church. Men, we get what He paid for. It wasn't free. It was paid for. And grace has a name. Now, I don't have time. I don't have another 45 minutes. I don't know how long I've gone, Bill, but I'm up here sweating and everything to go through my story. I would love to tell you guys my story. I don't have time to do that today. But I can tell you, I came to a place not too long ago where I was stuck. I was 2,300 feet below the earth. At least that's what it felt like. Right? My dreams were shattered. My plans were shattered. My hopes were shattered. It was a place where I thought I was going to lose my family. I'd already lost my job. I was done. I was stuck. And God infused this message into my heart that said, hey, you don't have to work your way to me. You can't. I lived for so many years thinking that I would get to heaven and I would open up this trophy case, right? God, look what I've done. Look what I've done for you. Men, you know when you get to heaven, you're not going to have to show God your trophies. There's no trophy case in heaven. It's paid for. You've been forgiven. I don't have time to go through my whole story, but I want you guys to trust me when I say, if God can show me grace, if God can show me forgiveness based on the rung of a ladder that I was on, if God will show up in a man's life after 38 years of trying and say, get up, pick up your mat and walk, He can show grace. And grace is for you too. 2 things I want you to remember today. Grace has a name. What's His name?
Jesus.
Jesus. And we get what he paid for. You don't have to earn it.
Amen.
We don't deserve it, but we get what he paid for. Let me pray for us. Heavenly Father, thanks for the opportunity to hang with these men. Thanks for just the privilege of sharing your word. God, I am so grateful for your grace and your kindness and your mercy and forgiveness in my life. God, I pray that every man here take an opportunity tonight to look themselves in the mirror and ask themselves, do you want to get well? Do I want to get well? God, maybe that'll help them take a step closer to you. God, we thank you for your son, Jesus, the sacrifice that you made, giving him to us, the sacrifice that he made on the cross, raising to life, providing a way for us to be reunited, reconnected, providing a way for every man in this room to be able to look at himself in the mirror and say, I am righteous because of the sacrifice that Jesus made on my behalf. When you look at us, you see us as righteous. God, I thank you for that. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right.
Hey guys, I want to thank Pastor Clint for a great message, and I want to tell you next week our speaker is David Hawkins. He is the regional rep for Man in the Mirror. If you're interested, Man in the Mirror has a new book out, a new study out. I'm sure he'll talk about that. And I'd also like to say, I don't know if y'all have ever done this or not, but I was in my office the other day going through the bookcase and everything started falling over. You know, I got kind of annoyed because it was cluttered with all kind of junk on it. I got kind of annoyed and I said, well, I got to do something about that. These are all my old, tapes, books. You know, there are all kinds of books. Here's Billy Graham, a CD, and there's all kinds of, this is Key Life. And so there's a whole lot of these things, old devotionals. So I said, what am I going to do with them? They're not doing any good here on the shelf. They're just sitting there. And I didn't know. And you're always like, well, a lightning strike might get me, if I throw one of these books away. So what can I do? And I thought, not long ago we had a group come in and preach to us, not preach to us, but teach us. They're from the prison book ministry. What they do is give away these books to different prisons all over the country. And I thought, well, I'll just box these up and figure out how to get a hold of those guys again, have them come in and pick up some books. So if y'all have any of those books, if your stuff is falling out of the bookcase, if you feel guilty about throwing a book away by Billy Graham, which I do, then box them up. We'll collect them here over a few weeks, and we'll call the prison group, book group in and give them to them. They'll appreciate them, and you won't feel guilty. Anyway, don't forget to be good to Sonny. They're always good. See you next week.
Yeah.